On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
So imagine being in the belly of the beast for 6 years for something you didn't do.
Go ahead, Chaotic.
Before I get cut off like I normally do, I would like to say this. If you are 18, 19, 20, 21 in the chat, you're very young. And I've lived a life. I'm not that old, but I'm not that young. But I lived a life of experiences through working in law enforcement, through working with the courts, and working in schools. If you are a man, especially in this generation, you don't get on an elevator with a woman you don't know. Let the elevator go. You don't go to, if you're shopping, go to the ugly old lady who's in her 70s or 80s if she's working, or go to a male cashier. If you are out and about and you see a random chick, man, listen, try not to make even eye contact at this point.
I do, and I believe two things can be true at the same time. I believe he took advantage of women, and I believe women took advantage of him, of who he was. When you have a status, sometimes that happens. You use your status to your advantage. Women look at the status and use it to their advantage. True. I just threw that he was Jewish because, again, people are going to be people. Black, white, Jewish, Muslim, Catholic. Evil lurks in everybody. And I don't believe no one. I don't care what race, ethnicity, religion. It's look at the facts. And that's all I want to say.
Well, Courtney, can I address you real quick? And I agree with what you're saying. But what I'm saying is that the one thing I could say about the Jewish culture and about the Japanese culture is that these cultures are more of the Jewish culture. They're very conservative, and they set a standard of behavior. You don't see Jewish women getting sloppy drunk at the bar. And I'm not saying that, well, because a woman is sloppy drunk, it's her fault of anything that happens later. But what I'm saying is that there's preventive measures. Same thing with a lot of Arabs. There are preventive measures like being sloppy drunk. They don't do that. In the most Arabs don't get sloppy drunk. And so you don't hear a lot of these cases that you hear that are in Western culture, particularly with blacks and whites. Oh, I was drunk and I woke up. You don't really hear that with Jewish women because they're not getting sloppy drunk. You don't hear that with Arab women. And Courtney, you said you went to a university, I'm pretty sure at PWI.
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, I went to PWI and I didn't see the Arab girls getting pissed out drunk and falling all over and wearing and dressing half naked. So they didn't put themselves in positions to even be in a situation like that. So that's all I was saying. But no culture's perfect. I'll agree with you on that, Courtney. I'll agree with you on that. But what I'm saying is that there are cultures that allow promiscuity and all types of behavior. And then when something happens, it's like, well, that shouldn't have never happened. Well, maybe there should also be preventative measures too. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Look at that beautiful conservative black woman.
But she cried in the back of the courtroom. It's very simple. Men lie. Women lie. Right? Both sexes lie all the time. Both of them do terrible things. You should never blanket believe women. You should never blanket believe men. You should never blanket believe anything but facts. Okay? When somebody makes an allegation, you should demand to see the facts. And then you should just do a little common sense test. Ask yourself if the facts line up, if they make any sense, Johnny Depp just didn't pass the smell test to me. You're telling me you got a man who's been married for over a decade. He's had all of these top, these girlfriends that are in the public eye. And just like at the age of however old he is, 50, he decides to become like a crazy abusive person. Like, wouldn't his wife who divorced him, divorces are never pretty, right? Wouldn't she be like, no, there was that one year when he was drunk that like he used to whoop my butt all the time. Like there was just no one in the history. Johnny Depp strikes me as a drunk pirate. Really, honestly. I look at him and I think this.
So that's kind of what we were saying in the beginning about hearing the story, hearing the whole entire story. And I think you was kind of hitting to that, Courtney, right? About like, what would you do when it comes? And I do understand from a parent's perspective, you may feel a certain way. Is it the correct way to feel? No, because your child could be lying. You don't think they'll lie, but some do, right? And so it's you kind of want to hear both sides if possible, but I know sometimes it's impossible. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
So I think because I've been quiet. Let me say this. I think personally, I agree with Candace Owens 100,000,000%. You don't blanket believe anybody. You know, there are plenty of dudes, and maybe some women, I don't know, but I know for a fact there are plenty of dudes that suffer the consequences of our justice system under the guise of, you know, justice was administered and under under false allegations, or even in the, let's say, our social contract, our public eye or whatever. People will ostracize you, alienate you, limit your income opportunities just based on the allegation of you did something. So while you guys were naming people, one other name that comes up for me, I think about the college athletes that were wrongly accused. And what I wanted to say, shout out to TLA. He gave a brilliant breakdown on why women who falsely accuse men of certain crimes, why they don't get prosecuted or they don't get convicted at the rate that they should. They don't get held accountable in that regard. And the reason why is because what prosecutor wants to be the one that this woman was crime wolf, right? Who wants to be the one that prosecutes Carolyn Bryant? Who wants that on their jacket? Right? Like, we still don't understand, like, these DAs and prosecute, like, it's still a political game. These are people that get elected into these systems, right? And so they also don't want to deter other people from coming forward, right? So if you in a court of law and you could be spot on, but you in a court of law and you lose the case and you were honest, I don't know why I'm echoing, but you were honest in your allegation, and then you lose your case, and now you're on the receiving end of some type of punishment. And he was saying that's why you don't see people getting prosecuted or held to the fullest extent of the law. Now, I think one thing that would change that, my honest opinion, the men are gonna mend. So we gonna come out and say, yeah, hold that heifer account. That wench lied on me, man. Send that wench to the gulag, all that, right? Well, maybe we won't. But what would accelerate that process is if women start coming out saying, "Nah, sis was wrong. Y'all got to handle that. Y'all got to take care of that. Nah, baby girl, you was out of pocket. You lied on that man. You took him from his family. That Brian Brooks kid was a star athlete, set for college, NFL, was tracking, and the girl lied on him. Lost his whole everything, right? And spent 6 years in jail. Prison. And please understand, there's a difference between jail and prison. Jail is like daycare. That's like daycare. County jail, that's daycare. When you go down the road, all that tough talk and all that, that's where you get tested. So imagine being in the belly of the beast for 6 years for something you didn't do.
Go ahead, Chaotic.
Before I get cut off, like I normally do, I would like to say this. If you are 18, 19, 20, 21 in the chat, you're very young. And I've lived a life. I'm not that old, but I'm not that young. But I lived a life of experiences through working in law enforcement, through working with the courts, and working in schools. If you are a man, especially in this generation, you don't get on an elevator with a woman you don't know. Let the elevator go. You don't go to, if you're shopping, go to the ugly old lady who's in her 70s or 80s if she's working, or go to a male cashier. If you are out and about and you see a random chick, man, listen, try not to make even eye contact at this point.